Welcome to Ask the Experts, where each week we talk to people in the industry to get the inside word on what's happening right now and what that means for the tactics you should be using to make the most of your money. Now, I've had a few property episodes recently about finding the right house, getting your finances prepped, all of that good stuff. But of course, crunch time, that's usually the negotiation. They want you to pay the highest price possible. You want to pay the lowest price possible. How do we try to tip the scales in our own favour? So this week I've partnered up with realestate.co.nz, who's kindly lent us their expert, Vanessa Williams. We're going to rip into it.
Making Sense is partnered with realestate.co.nz to get you the info you need in today's market. Property hunting can be a bit of an emotional rollercoaster with its fair share of stress. That's where realestate.co.nz comes in. They've been helping Kiwis buy, sell and rent since 1996, and their app is designed to make it easier and faster. What sets them apart? Flexibility. Realestate.co.nz gives you so many ways to search and so much information to help you make decisions. Realestate.co.nz. Download the app today. Before we get into it, Making Sense is stoked to be supported by KiwiBank. We've teamed up to bring you insight directly from their people, the experts who live and breathe this stuff every day. It's not the outdated stuff that worked 5 years ago. It's what's happening right now in the industry to help you make the most of your money. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi.
All right. Hey, Vanessa, when someone's decided they're wanting to buy a house, where do you start with those negotiations? I mean, I've been told by so many people that, you don't want to show your hand by seeming too keen. Is there any truth to that?
Lovely to be back, and thank you for having me again. Oh, look, and I do think the negotiation part of buying a house is the most nerve-wracking. It's the scariest part, and it's because the reality of it is most of us, to all of our wonderful salespeople out there, you go you, but most of us aren't doing negotiating on a daily basis. So this is a really important time for you to have your plan. Now, I wish I could say, right, follow these 5 steps and that will work beautifully, because it really does come back to what is your risk level? What is your comfort level? How do you operate in these types of environments, and what really works for you? Now, what I would say is if you decide, right, I'm just going to go in, I've got $500,000, that's all I've got. I'm telling you right now, here it is. And that's it. You either come back with a yes or I'll move on to the next one. That is actually a negotiating strategy, right? Because while there's not much negotiating in there, you have decided that this back and forth, the coming, the going, or the rest of it is not for you. If you are a little bit more au fait with this and you're sort of like, right, actually what I am going to do is I'm going to start in an opportunity, so start in an area that I feel that the property's worth, but I'm happy to go to X number higher than that. So one tip I will say is you really give away your hand when you say, well, let's start with an offer of $450,000.
Which almost the subtext there is, you can push me higher.
Correct. And you would be amazed at how many people say, we're going to start with an offer of. And so even just little things like that, being mindful about your language when you're chatting with your real estate agent, and there are so many different ways that you can negotiate. The first thing I would say is work out what your kind of negotiating personality type is.
Yeah, I love that. And as well, one of the other things I think is getting any extra information that you can to guide those negotiations and to give you that confidence when you're having those conversations. You said before about, this is what this is worth in this particular market. It is really worth, isn't it? Doing things like looking up other sales in the area. So talk to me a bit about how you can find some of the information that could help you and where you'd be looking, what sort of stuff you're going for.
Yeah, great. So I think it's really interesting. There's a couple of key pieces of data I would be looking at. I would be going on to, say, realestate.co.nz and save every single property that is in that area that you're interested in. Because what will happen is if those properties aren't moving or they're not selling by that particular sales type, let's just say they went to auction, they got passed in, and they're now on negotiation, we'll notify you to let you know that that property got passed in from auction and has gone to negotiation. If it's got a listed price on it, which is around 40% of the market at the moment, have a listed price on them. If that listed price drops, again, you'll get notified on that information. So that allows you to start to see that while we've got vendors who are requesting, and I'll use for ease of all this, $1 million for their property, if they drop it by $50,000 and go to $950,000, you can start to see perhaps they are looking for more than the market is willing to pay. And so again, it gives you some points of proof around where that price point might be in the suburb you're looking at the type of house you're looking at, and the number of bedrooms and bathrooms that you're looking at. I would also, once you've saved that property, when it becomes withdrawn or sold off the market, we'll also notify you then as well. And then following that property, you'll be able to know what it's sold for. So that will give you, again, another data point that you can start to see that vendors in this area are roughly looking for $1 million, but most of the houses are selling for around $950,000. And you can kind of go, right, is this within my budget? The other piece is looking at how long the property's been on the market for. That will give you a sort of, are they still in the very early stages of marketing and gathering all the information about the property? Or perhaps has it been on the market for quite a while? Anything that you can find out about the vendor. Do they need to move? Are they overseas? Is it an investment property? Is it they're actually looking to move into a bigger house or a smaller house? Again, that will sort of help you to understand where you're sitting. Because again, sometimes if they're looking to downsize, they might have a little bit more wiggle room within their budget. Yeah. Whereas if they are looking to upsize, they might be a bit firmer on their price. As an example, I'm not, everyone's a bit different, but if you find out that type of information, it might help you to work through your negotiating strategy as well.
Yeah. One thing that took me a while to figure out, when I'm getting all of that information together, it's one thing to have all of that information and it's really useful for yourself, but you also have to make the pitch to the people that you're negotiating with. You need to show them that you know this information. And as much as you're comfortable, lay it out. I mean, if you're a spreadsheet kind of girl, love that. Brilliant. I am not, but some people are. So if you spreadsheet all this good stuff and say, here's what I've seen for prices in the area and how long it's taken, and that's why I'm pitching this way, it really strengthens your argument of, ooh, this person didn't come to play. But even if you just chuck into an email, and this is more sort of how I would do it, is I've noticed prices about around here. There's been this sale and this sale, and I've noticed that they've been taking about this long. And so I really think this is where it's at. They might know all of that stuff, but showing that you know it too and showing them that you've done your research, it is just more convincing when you're making your pitch, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it also shows how serious you are about it.
Yeah.
Property is such a hobby for New Zealanders. So you get a lot of nosy people who are poking in an open home, just having a look.
The absolute tire kicker, love an open home.
Right. And so what it also does, it strengthens your position with that real estate agent, because they can say, look, I've got a really engaged buyer here. They are hot on the market. They understand what's going on. They want to get a deal done. And if you can demonstrate that you want to get a deal done because you've done your research, because you know the market, because you're really interested in this property and you're putting a well-constructed deal together, that puts you in a position ahead of perhaps other people who are like, oh, how about $850? No. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, I'm happy to go to 900, but I just need you to know I've been looking at this house, and this house. They all sold for this price point, within the last couple of months. And it just shows that you are a serious buyer and you become really valuable, and you can become gold to that real estate agent because inherently they want to get the deal done as well.
100%. Show that you can be a sure thing, because this is the problem, is you can get people come in, make an offer and then flake. If you are a sure thing, there are people who will drop their prices just to make sure it is sussed and sorted.
Find the perfect property faster with realestate.co.nz, the home of property. Realestate.co.nz allows you to search the way you want, based on your budget, the location, the type of house. You can even draw on the map to find properties in a specific area. You can filter by price range, number of bedrooms, even keywords like brick and tile. If you're keen to avoid buying at auction, you select to view houses with the price displayed. That's super helpful, especially if you're using your KiwiSaver. When you've narrowed down your search, realestate.co.nz will alert you when a new property that matches it hits the market. Download the realestate.co.nz app to find your perfect property faster.
Life looks different for everyone. Maybe you're buying your first home, growing your whānau, dreaming of travel, or simply trying to stay on top of things. KiwiBank has the tools to help you manage your money your way. Find out more at kiwibank.co.nz. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi. What about red flags and green flags when you're having the conversation? Any good things, bad things to be keeping an eye out for?
Green flags, most real estate agents, I will say, will come back to you in a timely manner. They will help you to get this deal done, especially in a market like we're experiencing at the moment. We've seen a really flat market, and so there definitely is an opportunity. Real estate agents want to look after those buyers just as much as they want to look after their sellers as well. So, I would say that those green flags are that they're gonna be so excited if you turn up with a spreadsheet with your research done and a really strong offer. That's going to be great for you. In terms of red flags, well, yeah, I think you've got to remember that you are putting money down on a table as well. So make sure that you are given the respect that you are deserved within that situation as well. If you are really struggling with not getting a fair representation, can also go into the branch and chat with the branch manager or chat with the people within that branch. If you kind of feel like, look, I'm putting these offers on a table, I'm not getting taken seriously, or I'm not getting what I need. So don't be afraid to expand that when you are sort of looking to get a deal done. You know what I mean? If you're starting to move from your head to your heart, that's where you can become in a bit of, danger zone, because sometimes we can see these properties and we just love them. We see our life there. We envision what the future could look like. And then we start to go, oh, maybe just another 5, maybe just another 10. And look, what I would say is be willing to walk away. I know that is hard, especially when you've fallen in love with something. The reality of it is that there will be a property out there for you that you want to make sure that you're financially able to service. Interest rates can ratchet really quickly here in New Zealand, really quickly. And you don't want to be in a position where you're having to quick sell, perhaps make a loss on the property because the market hasn't moved, because you fell so in love with that property at one particular time. This can be a real mix. That head and heart can be a real mixture if we move from our head down to our heart.
100%. And it's so hard, that, isn't it? Because yes, it's a big financial decision, a huge financial decision. It's also where you live. So of course emotions get pulled into it, but you've really, really got to, as much as you can, find a way to put the brakes on, cool yourself down ahead of time. And I know it doesn't feel like it when you're on the property hunt, but both of the last 2 times that I bought a house, it was the third house that we found. And the first 2 that we missed out on, I tell you what, I wanted them so badly. But the third that we ended up with the benefit of hindsight, that was the right house. So I really do, and it gets into all that woo nonsense, but I really do believe that sometimes you miss out for a good reason, because there is a better one coming. Just stay mentally strong. I think the last thing I want to touch on is, obviously we talked a bit before about it is a bit of a game where they want the highest price, you want the lowest. How much can you play that game depending on the different situations? Because of course, if you're the only buyer, then you probably have more time up your sleeve. If you're in a multi-offer situation, that's totally different. So what are times when you can and can't play the game?
Yes, and I think it's really interesting as well to remind yourselves that it's not just about the dollar figure as well. There are conditions that can come with a sale. It could be that you want a longer settlement or a shorter settlement. So it could be that you are an unconditional buyer versus a conditional buyer. So someone might, and I know I've got story after story after story over people who've taken less money, but a less conditional buyer. So they've gone, look, I'm putting basically cash. And I say that because the bank's usually paying the most of the cash. So it doesn't have to be cash in your bank account. But look, if you are an unconditional buyer, cash unconditional buyer, you probably are able to negotiate a little bit harder on that sale price. Whereas people who might have conditions attached to the property purchase, they might have to pay a little bit more to get that accepted, because the reality of it is, if those conditions don't come through, let's just say as an example, it's conditional on a building report. And then the building report comes back and tells you that the piles in the house are sinking and it's going to cost you $30,000 to fix it, right? So then at that point, you then go back to the vendor and say, well, look, I've just had my building report come in and there's a lot of there's a lot of issues around the piles, as an example. So you've got to remember that when you are thinking about your negotiations, think about those types of pieces as well. Settlement date's another one. You might have the vendor who wants to get out next Friday and you can settle next Friday. Amazing. You also might have a vendor who says, look, I will take a lower offer, but I can't move out until Christmas. And then you make the decision, you go, okay, so we could do a deal today but we'll move in over Christmas holiday. Are we happy with that? Coming back to your research, coming back to your questioning, coming back to your understand what's happening. Are we in a multi-offer situation? Am I just the only buyer for this property, or is there more? Are we happy to go for the pre-auction offer? If this is not the right property for you, don't buy under stress and a frenetic situation, because you might end up regretting that, and it's not like you can move really quickly. If it's meant for you, it will happen. And if it's not, there's a better one coming along its way.
100%. And I've got to say, for all that we say head and heart, don't be scared to pull their heartstrings. I have just had a friend who is looking to move with her family, and they found this place that they love, and they did have to lowball a little bit. It was like just on the edges of their budget, so they're lowballing a smidge. They will have to sell their current house, so it's a conditional offer. But she wrote a letter saying, our family would love to live here. These are our sons' names. Turns out the people who are selling lived there with their family and now looking to downsize, and they have the same son's name.
Oh, cute.
And so she really pulled their heartstrings. None of it was a lie. And so they were willing to take her offer. Now, it hasn't gone through yet. She's still now going through the whole process. But I'm just saying, protect your own heart, but absolutely go for someone else's. Why not?
Love it.
Unethical property tips from Frances.
Yeah. I can neither condone nor non-condone.
Yeah, I was going to say, Vanessa brings the data and I bring the unethical tips. We're a wonderful team. Thank you so much. That's Vanessa Williams from realestate.co.nz giving us the inside word on negotiating like a pro. The actual real tips, well, I just come in with, as I say, the unethical ones. Now, if you have more questions on this, anything else to do with money, do send them through. You can find me all over social media, Frances Cook NZ on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the rest. But also, if this episode was useful for you, there we go. You can tell it's the beginning of the day and I haven't had enough coffee. If it was useful for you, do hit subscribe and also send it to a friend so we can all stay up to date. Tips and tricks for our money. Until next time, have a great day.
Just a note before you go. This podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.